got 2 fish in May, at the beginning of May, and the last fish I hooked was a huge double-figured fish, and I actually lost him. And I was just like, this is it. This is the start of the season. I think it was like the 7th of May, and hooked him up at Howley's in East Mayo. And I was like, this is it. The spring run is on the way, and the grills won't be long after. But it just didn't materialise after that. So didn't mind it at the time, but after that, looking back, I was just like, gosh, I wish I'd landed that fish.
Hello and welcome to the Ireland on the Fly podcast about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland. Despite the current doom and gloom, the one thing you can't fault salmon anglers, and especially younger salmon anglers, is their enthusiasm for the sport. Johnny Casey and Yamal Turkoman were 2 recent guests whose love of salmon was infectious, and likewise this week's guest, Cian O'Boyle, who fishes on the Moy and Owen Moor regularly throughout the season and is no stranger to landing salmon, judging by his videos on social media, joins us on this week's show. Cian tells us about his fishing exploits as well as some of his tips for consistent catches. Plus he has some thoughts on getting young people into the sport as well. But first, Tom, I finally made it to Corrib for 2023 after a few failed goes.
Yeah, good man, Dara. Yes, it finally happened. We were talking about this inaugural annual Ireland on the Fly day out. Well, yesterday it finally happened and we got out. It was great, Dara, wasn't it?
It was. I don't know, should we open it up to the members like next year or something like that? You know what I mean? The Ireland on the Fly community, and see what madness happens.
There's an idea. We might as well let the secret be out. We had great notions yesterday. Great notions. We had mics and everything. We were going to record everything. And you know what happened? The lure of the fishing took over, didn't it, Tara?
Well, yeah, so just for context for people. So I had great ideas. I said, we're going to bring the mics down, the clip-on mics. We're going to record the fishing day. It's going to be a brilliant episode. You're going to hear the waves. You're going to hear the catching of fish. And then we get to the water and the mics aren't working.
Okay, yeah, actually, I've forgotten that. So really, due to technical glitches, that held that up. Now, we did have a spare set.
We did have a spare set. And by way of context, I've worked in radio and audio for 20 years. So you'd think I know what I'm doing at this stage. And we're at the water side, and I just said, "Affect this. Let's go fishing."
And out we went.
And you were like, "Oh, I think because you were saying, look, the sun's going to be coming out now. You know, by lunchtime we got to get out fishing." So we went out, and I was like, "The sun's still not out yet. Let's keep fishing." Maybe I might just keep on going.
And then at lunch, we said we were going to do it at lunch. And then we'd had our cup of tea. We had a lovely lunch on Inchigill, which if any anglers have never gone on to, it's just a fantastic island. And so we just finished the cup of tea and we looked out and I said, there's still a cloud. You know what we'll do? I said, we'll go out while there's still a cloud and we'll come back in again. Later on, have another cup of tea. And of course, that never happened.
It was great fishing. Great fishing.
Yeah, it was great, but it was great as well. See, I mean, and it does happen. When the sun did come out, it was a day of 2 halves. Yeah. When the sun did come out, how it slowed everything up. Now, we still had action, not as much, but really just goes to show how much you could see it quite clearly how much conditions dictate how you'll do.
Yeah, and just the different types between pulling wets and then onto the dries in the afternoon. And me not doing so well on the dries.
Well, the dries is funny. Like, I had to laugh when you start off the dries. I went, God, this is really easy compared to pulling because it's just so relaxed. And then after 20 minutes, like at this stage, Dara hadn't taken his eyes off the flies. He was peeled. There was no conversation.
Like, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, don't. Mesmerized the flies. He goes, you have to concentrate a lot on these. Well, you caught.
I caught on the dry, caught in the wets, caught in the dries. But what I did learn was don't try and tell a long story in the middle of a drift on a dry, because I think I was about to hit the punchline.
You were just about to hit the punchline, and the fish hit you.
And as you kept reminding me, that was a good fish. That was a good fish.
Actually,
you messed that one up.
I just want to say here that actually was a good fish, Tara. That one.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. I think I messed that one up.
Yeah, but let's also say as well, you got a lovely fish. One of the fish you got on the wets was an absolute cracker earlier
Yeah,
on
it
the day.
was. It
So
was.
it was
I might put it
brilliant.
up. I might put it up on social media. I'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
No, it was great. Now, and the first time, I think it was 10 years. I said since the last time I was on Corrib. So
It was when you came
doing
up
the
and you did
documentary.
the documentary, and you interviewed my dad. And
Yeah,
that's, yeah,
10
you
years.
interviewed
Like
my dad.
so. Yes. So let this be an inaugural one.
Yes.
Let the invasion of Corib from the Ireland on the Fly community begin.
Well, we've already said because the microphones weren't working, that you're going to have to come back up and do it again.
Exactly.
But I know it's going to happen the next time anyway.
They won't
We'll
work.
go fishing. Yeah,
We go fishing.
They won't.
So no, it was a great day. So thank you, Tom. And yeah, highly recommend. You're a good guide. You know what you're doing. If anybody's
Does that
listening,
sound like a plug? Does that sound like a plug on
anybody's
shows that I'm on?
listening, without blowing smoke, I have to say you were an excellent guide and teacher and communicator. So yes, it made the day all the better. So and you put me on fish, so I can't complain.
Oh, well, Joe Dara, I'll take that. Thank you very much.
Well, I tell you what, look, let's get back to this week's guest and salmon fly angler, Cian O'Boyle. And Tom, again, a bit like kind of Johnny and Yamal, there's just the enthusiasm for the sport. He's only 23.
Yeah.
Everything between his college career, his job seemed to kind of revolve around when he could get out fishing.
Yeah, like it's almost as if, first of all, yeah, the enthusiasm, that just hits you. But back to what you said, like the career path, almost like, it's funny, it's coincidentally fits in with fishing, but absolutely great. It was fantastic to talk to him. And, you put me onto his Instagram, his social media site, and some of the videos are fantastic. They're really good. Fantastic. Interesting as well. Like he also said as well, like after last week's one where we talked to Conor Arnold, he's aware of what's happening with salmon and how much more time he has to put in now, which I thought was a very interesting point to get fish. But it still hasn't stopped him going fishing. Like he's, when he gets a chance, he's off there.
Yeah, and it has to be said, like he fishes mainly the Owen Moor. It's the and what he says is it's just the consistency, in terms of just trying to get out, do what you're doing, and just consistency to do it. But yeah, he does make the point, like before, like maybe you could go out in a short session of a couple of hours and you'll catch a fish or two. Now he says you have to be at it the whole day.
Yeah, it was not very interesting.
Yeah, so it does admit it. Like, but it was nice because, like, in fairness, we had a great response to the Conor Arnold episode. People were really, really complimentary, and I suppose just saying, look, it's great to hear somebody like of Conor's experience just saying it as it is, because it needs to be said, because a lot of anglers are seeing what Conor is seeing as well. So I think just to kind of the light in the shade, maybe this week it's Cian, it's the enthusiasm, it's the younger generation. He is catching fish, but it's bloody hard. It's
bloody hard, yeah, and I think that's very true. Like while there was a stark reality of Conor's one, we don't want to dampen everybody's enthusiasm and outlook. So, and I think it's like a little bit of an antidote to the reality of what Conor was saying, to hear Cian going on and just his enthusiasm is battling on, and he's gone out there anyway.
Let's hear from Cian now. And Tom, you first asked him about how he got into salmon angling.
There wouldn't be a whole lot of salmon fishing. Like in my immediate family, I wouldn't really have any anyone who fishes. But my aunt is married into the Gannons, who own Gannons Fishery on the River Moy.
Right.
So I would have always been immersed in that sort of growing up. I would have always went over to B&B there, and there would have been hundreds of fishermen. So the fishing stories and all that I would have heard throughout those years they couldn't have not got me into fishing.
Guilty by association.
Yeah. I No, I've a brother that's older than me, and he had the same experience I did, and he doesn't have any interest in fishing. So it's funny the way it goes.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. So your brother was going over to the aunts as well, as well as you.
The uncles,
you picked up the aunts and uncles.
Yeah, he got the first salmon before me, and after that day, I was determined. I was just like, I have to get him someday.
Right. So, come here. What age were you then when you started into the fishing?
I would have been like 6, I'd say, or 7.
Right.
Bubble and fly. This is
Yeah.
another thing actually I have to mention on the podcast is bubble and fly on the Moy. It's probably the most sort of underestimated sort of methods in fishing, really. Like a lot of people think it's a beginner method, and this is, you know, it won't catch as many fish as someone with a fly rod, but like a lot of the Moy, like 90% of the Moy is, well, we won't say 90%, maybe 70% of it is sort of slow flowing.
That's right, yeah.
Deep.
It's a lot of it is canal-like, isn't it?
And
Almost.
everyone likes to think that a fly rod is, you know, it's delicate presentation and all that. But sometimes on a really like when you want to throw a big, like the Moy is a big river, you're going to need sort of a relatively heavy line. So if you're throwing a 7/8 or 9-weight spay line, it's not going to be as delicate, or as you're not going to present flies as well as a big long monofilament leader and a tiny little torpedo bubble at the end. But yeah, it's one of my favorite methods to fish.
But it's the way you started off, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Like even like the fact that you can be fishing for salmon, but you can also be fishing for like sea trout at the same time. Like and like sometimes like it's a lot of like it's way easier. Fish cover a lot more, particularly on the Moy, obviously. It's easier to cover a lot more sort of area because you can throw a longer line, and sometimes too on the Moy you might have different currents, and when you're throwing a big long line, it's hard to sort of keep it sort of the line fishing straight. Like you tend to have a lot of bellies in the line,
Right.
but it's just easier control. It's easier to control the bubble and fly for whatever reason. It's just obviously the thinner diameter line.
Of course. And there's a thing there that you mentioned on using the bubble and the fly, and I'd never thought of this.
Yeah.
And basically what you're saying, like on a calm day, you know, chucking out, let's say, a 9-weight, like it causes some disturbance.
Yeah.
But a far more delicate presentation, your bubble and fly. Like I'm completely for it. And also as well, I know we're Ireland on the fly, we all love our fly fishing. But, you know, I mean, I think for a lot of things, if any method gets people fishing, that's the most important thing. And with your introduction to it.
I like to think of the bubble and fly, like I don't really hitch for salmon. I never really got into it, but I like to think as the bubble and fly on the Moy as kind of hitching. You're using tiny shrimp flies, and obviously you're fishing on the surface of the water, and it's very visual at times. You can see the V of the salmon coming behind it and ready to take the fly. Like it's great crack. And you're using like, it depends on whether the river is low or not. Like really, like that's where do you ever hear the foxer shrimp?
Yeah. It's
a very dull fly, but when the river is really low and you need, and it's moving slower than it typically would, that's the type of fly that will trigger a resident fish that's not going to take, say, a cascade or something you're fishing on a fly rod.
So what you're talking there, but just back to it. So you're 6-7 years of age.
Yeah.
You are over in Gannon's fishery, the
Actually, I wouldn't have fished. It would have been the back of the town in Foxford, where the river runs through the town. That's where everyone, like, it's one sort of special thing about the Moy is that, or particularly there, is that that's where everyone in Foxford learns to fish. Like, and it was mainly trout. It was only really sort of 10, when I got to 10, that I started fishing for salmon. But it was trout on the bubble and fly from a very early age, and it was kind of like mackerel fishing. Like you're like, because like it's where that's situated, that stretch of river. It's just below where Cullen flows into the Moy. So like you do get a lot of good fish that come down from the lake. So there's a fly called the wall fly, and it's a huge hatch there in the Moy in Foxford, because it's something. Because obviously there's the Foxford woolen mills, but from what I've heard, it basically got imported with whatever material came into the wool from a foreign country, and there's huge hatches at night, and that's where I've got the best of. Like, I'm not a trout man, but bubble and fly for trout at night, sea trout, it's hard stopping at times, and it might be a tiny fish, but I don't know, when they come up, when you're fishing the bubble and fly, and it's when it's surface action and they come up from the depths and turn on it, it always feels like a big fish. So it's great crack. Definitely underestimated.
As a teenager, like, kind of, I suppose when you get that bit older, teenage years, college years, I suppose a lot of the time kind of the fishing fades away for people. Did you stick at it? Were you as obsessed with it through the day?
I always was obsessed with it, but I suppose when I got to maybe 17, 18, when I started getting to that year where you start going to the pub a bit, I definitely didn't. I'd say I only went out a handful of times that season. Probably because I was in transition year and all that, and it would have been sort of the year where I sort of probably came out of my shell that way in terms of friends and that. But that period I definitely didn't fish as much, but I always had the grow for fishing. It wasn't too long before I was almost fishing every second day of the week for fish after that. Like.
Very jealous.
Yeah.
And come here, tell me, are you out of college, or what did you do after school?
So I done an undergrad in geography in Maynooth, and I always had the intention of going into primary teaching. So I've just finished my undergrad there last September, and now I'm doing a master's in primary teaching. So I'm doing that now. I'm actually doing it remotely, so it worked well in terms of spring fishing. So yeah, now the summer.
Good man yourself.
The work is picked up a bit during the summer, so I'm kind of limited. I'm debating whether I
should ever work again
fishing tomorrow, because I have a deadline coming up soon. So
when's the deadline?
It's the 21st of August, but
go fishing.
It always seems far in the distance, but it comes fast when it does.
How did you manage, actually? So you were in Maynooth for 3 years, was it?
3 years, yeah.
So did you get much fishing done when you were down there? Like,
I would have never fished until June or July. Anyways, like, even when I was like I'm surrounded by rivers. Like, but when I was in school, and particularly because of football and all that too as well, I would have never really fished till June and July. I think mid-April was the earliest I've ever got a salmon, because that was the first year I fished. I was in transition year, so obviously I had plenty of spare time. I was fishing for springers there. Just the Easter break coincided. It was just the right time, and that was the earliest salmon I got.
I think it's Gaston King, because every reference point is in relation to the fishing,
Yeah.
The undergrad, the postgrad, whatever, like.
The Easter break and transition year.
Yeah.
With your first springer. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's literally, yeah. That's the last few years anyways. Yeah. It's the fishing man.
And should you have timed that well, though? So when you're a teacher, you have the summer off, so you'll be able to go fishing for the summer then.
Yeah. I get jibed a lot. I get jibed a lot for that, to be fair. A lot.
Can I just add, because nobody sees the video of this, but on hearing that, a big smile broke out in Keane's face.
No, it's always something. It's always something I wanted to do, but the summers wake up in handy. Really.
You're like an inter-county GA player. You know what I mean? Stay in college for as long as possible. Get a teacher's job. Keep playing inter-county, you know.
That's it. Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Did you ever do any guiding or any interest in the kind of professional side of it? Like,
I've never really taken anyone like out officially guiding. I've went out for someone for an hour or two and showed them how to fish, the basics and that, tied them up, cast and all that. I've never actually got into the whole guiding business. If anything, actually, even though I do a lot of fishing and I'm pretty knowledgeable on it, like there's Paddy McDonald, he was on the podcast there. I'd love to go for a day with him on the mile. Like there's always more to learn. I feel relatively young at my point in life in terms of fishing. So there's a lot to learn from someone like Paddy McDonald or something. I've always meant to. I never got to do it, but no. In short, I never really guided. No.
But I have to say, Cian, kind of what like I follow you on Instagram, and why the reason why I wanted to get in touch was obviously, you know, love chatting to young anglers. And now I know obviously social media can skew the truth and reality ever so slightly. But by God, you're catching fish on a regular basis.
I do.
And in fairness, and you're posting the video. So when you're going fishing, are you bringing the GoPro with you? When did you start doing that? Like,
I go in and out. I go through phases of it where I might bring it out, and sometimes it'll get annoying. But I got a newer GoPro there recently, and it has a hindsight feature, so it doesn't mean you have to be going through batteries upon batteries and SD cards. So basically it pre-records 30 seconds before you press the button.
Brilliant.
So it makes things easier.
I was wondering about that because I've watched because Dara sent me the link, and I see when you take a fish, when you hit a fish, you go pressing a button.
Sometimes it doesn't work though, and I'm like, when I look back at it, I'm just like, that was a good take at the shade.
Oh, well, the couple I've seen, it's worked. It's fantastic, but I didn't know what. I figured it was something like that, but it's great now. It's all clarified now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great feature.
Yeah, it is, and there's also the voice recognition. So I don't use it anymore because at the start you would have been hearing me saying, "Go GoPro, start recording," and it not working half the time.
But I suppose your generation, Cian, like you're so used to digital, you're so used to social. Like would you think you think nothing of just bringing a GoPro, recording what you're doing? Like it's just that's what you're used to. Like, is it? To
be fair, I wouldn't be. If I go to a concert or something, I'm the last person to take out my phone. I wouldn't be. That's one thing that sometimes bugs me is that a lot of my friends do always have the phone in their hands. But I do actually use the GoPro for my own like fishing. Sometimes when I'm in the moment, I'm a big believer in sort of daydreaming is the best way to catch a fish, because sometimes when you're concentrating, you're over analyzing things. So sometimes in the excitement of the moment too, as well, you actually forget exactly where the fish took. So it works that way too as well.
Yeah, it's a handy record. Like you'd be looking back over it going, okay, so that's where it is. Okay, yeah, that's a good way of doing it actually. Yeah. It's not just for social media purposes.
That's the offense, and it's literally just it's just somewhere to put them that I can look back on. And I wouldn't be big into the social media, but I've made a lot of friends through it. That's kind of what I do, because like it's particularly where I'm from, like not many people, as I said, not many people my age fish, like so like the likes of Yamo and Johnny, you were on the podcast, and David O'Hagan. I've met them through Facebook and Instagram, and I actually introduced them to the likes of Owen Moore, because I think they were down on the Moy and it was a washout, and I just said to fish the Owen Moore, and we've been fishing together since, and it's actually it's like, it's great to have someone your own age or close to it, fishing, because it just makes things a bit different. You know?
Yeah, and I want to ask you that actually, Cian, in terms of your age group. Like, you know, I was kind of the same. My friends, they play golf. They think I'm mad. I think they're mad. Do you, like, I suppose, did some of your friends when you were younger were fishing and dabbling in it, and then as you get older, they slowly drop away, like, and then you're kind of the last man standing, is it?
To be fair, I was only ever the only person, I'd say, by class to fish. There was one lad that, like, because I suppose, like, lads will always kind of, they'll dabble in it. Like, so growing, like, we used to, the deal is beside me here, and we used to always fish split shot and worm, run up for trout and salmon. We'd see the salmon splash in the pool and we'd run over. But there was only two other lads that I knew that fished, like, and that's, yeah.
And that was your town, but when you're on about, you know, the place in Foxford,
yeah,
where you started fishing, was there any guys your age, let's say from different schools from other parts of North Mayo or Foxford or anywhere?
No,
was there other lads your age there?
There was two lads, I suppose, that I knew that did do a bit, but they picked it up a lot later than I did, and they wouldn't have been as sort of as immersed in it. Like, so they were fishing for about a year or so and gave up after that. Like, they wouldn't have been catching fish. Like,
and come here then. Let's say when you were away in college and things, and you said to your classmates in college or people in your year that you fished, how many of them, aside from the ones that Dara's already mentioned in our group that says you're mad, how many of them actually said, you know what, Cian, I'd love to try that? Did any of them?
The fishing is one. I kind of don't broadcast it too much amongst my friends, because they just think it's like a worm and a hook, and that's it. Like, it's some people have a very stereotypical view of it. Even like in Ballina, where you have the famous Salmon Festival, like, none of my friends, like, I have friends from Ballina too as well, all of them think fishing is just stick a worm in a hook and wait all day. Like, so, like, I'm just, they just think of fishing as like that one weird thing the Cian does.
Yeah, that's just ignore it.
We're actually playing that game. Do you know where you stick the card in your head?
Yeah.
And it says
yes or no.
One of the topics was fly fishing, and we were in the pub. I wasn't paying attention to the game, and one of the lads was just like, the thing the Cian does. I just turned over. I was just like, what?
The thing that
it's just like I'm like, people all over the world do it too as well. Like,
but isn't that interesting? Okay, as well, like for like I said, you know, the area of Ireland where you are, where there's so much salmon fishing.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's I don't know how. Like, it's like I really don't feel like my age group locally don't appreciate what they have. Like, even just like you have sports like golf, surfing. Like, we have someone like we have Ennisgrove Golf Club, and we define as the surfing in the area too as well, and fishing, and no one takes part in them either. Like, so it's just like, we definitely live in a I suppose a TikTok generation, and I suppose there's also the fact that GA and other sports like soccer have just grown tenfold in the last few years. Like a lot of my friends back home, like, going out the pub with them is a rare thing now, because they've training the next day or a match. Like, and it's not training once a week; it's training like 3 times a week. That's just one sport. Like,
yeah, it's very true. But then, Tom, did you, when you were growing up, Tom, Cornamona, like, did all the kids fish growing up, or was it the same kind of thing?
A huge amount of kids would have fished.
Okay.
It was generally perch fishing with worms. So that's how we all did it. But like what Cian was saying there, like, GA was huge. We all played football. That's what you did here locally. Now, there probably wasn't any other things like you've mentioned there. We didn't have golf. we'd no other sports. Soccer came late enough. So I was in my early 20s before soccer came here. So all we had was football and fishing. But, a few guys got onto fishing. But, the big thing was for any outdoor sport was football. But football is huge. And I know from the area that Cian's in, and we discussed beforehand, All Ireland club champions back in the early 2000s. Yeah, cross Malina. Yeah, so it's huge. I know you're in a huge football area. So I can kind of understand where the guys are coming in, because you're talking training 3 times a week. I think when I was playing underage, was training once a week, maybe twice. So you had more time for fishing.
No, I basically quit football the day I got really into fishing. I was fishing on the deal with those 2 lads I was talking about earlier, and fishing was good. And Dad called me. He was just like, "Cian, are you going to this training? It's getting close." It was North Mayo development training, and I just did not feel like doing laps of the pitch that night. I was in the elements beside the river. So yeah, that was the day really I was just like, no.
That's when you knew.
Yeah. You saw salmon heading and tailing at the end
literally,
of the pool. Yeah, that's it. Fake that. Good man.
But tell us, what do you think, Cian, in terms of trying to get more younger people into the sport? I know obviously you mentioned bubble and fly, and that's a good way in terms of, trying to introduce kids to, to it. Any other things you think needs to be done in terms of, is it seen as kind of a twee, kind of an older type sport, or what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I think if there was a significant amount of fish there for people to catch, it would be a different story. The problem is, I spent years trying to catch my first salmon. I mean, years, losing fish after fish. And I just have a weird level of patience, so that not a lot of sort of cause of technology, and even my attention span has got shorter over the years. So I think with the growing decline of salmon, you really want to be sort of, if you have a nephew or a niece, or someone someone younger that may have an interest or develop an interest in fishing, you really have to put them in the right spot, the right time, with the right setup, because it can, if they don't catch fish, it can be very discouraging, particularly when they have so many other activities and stuff in their life, like GA or whatever,
Yeah, I think that's such a really pertinent point, Cian, and we need fisheries now. All right, it's kind of hard for that to happen with salmon, because even when loads of salmon, it was hard to catch loads of them. But to start people off, I think we should have, first, I've always said this, there should be better availability of stocked fisheries. Seriously. I mean, we're at I was at the Irish Spring Angling Fair this year down in Kilkenny, and part of it, because it was in Ardare Springs, and one pool was set aside, and it was just stocked to the gills of rainbow trout. And anybody coming along, and little kids could just chuck out anything, bubble and fly, they could cast a line, worm, or anything. And they were catching fish and a smile on their face, and it was great. It was great. And they didn't need the patience of job like you have. Do you know?
Yeah.
And that will get them in. But yeah, because also as well, like we've seen around here, sometimes if you want to turn a youth off fishing, bring them out for a day on Cara when it's fishing tough. They'll never want to go fishing again.
Oh yeah, 100%. Even with the Moy too as well, a lot of it is primarily slow because of the drainage. So in my personal opinion, I like fast streamy water, but I mean I did have to grow up with what was available to me. And that was just, down Gannon's, it's lovely water, but it is slow. So, the likes of the worm or spinning isn't really appealing to anyone young. At the end of the day, I suppose this is Ireland on the fly. So I suppose like fly fishing definitely is probably to someone my age the sort of cooler thing. Particularly now, I think it's fly fishing is like grown. It's sort of it's grown apart from other methods.
I hate saying this, but in some of the YouTube videos and things you can see it can look a bit sexy if it's done right.
I was trying to say that. That's a better way of putting
it. Because it does, flowing water, fast water, guys, chest waders in the water just streaming past them, and so I can see how that'll be appealing. But I know what you're saying, a slow running water.
I was always fascinated, Tom, and keen by. I remember even when I first got into the sport was the American. There's a real kind of like part of it is it's almost like a surfing culture, I suppose I'm primarily thinking maybe the steelheaders. And these are the kind of guys who are, out all season and they're, drinking the beers, and they're casting and they're, it's that surfing kind of vibe, like,
It's the red bandana crew.
Yeah, but it's a lifestyle. That's
it is.
But you know what I'm going to say, and I'm going to touch on it before I forget it. I mean, you just touched on it there. You've good surfing in the area. A lot of the locals don't go surfing either.
Yeah, well, I've only picked it up in the last 2 years or so. Like I'm sure, like I don't know how I haven't picked it up earlier. Like it's no one does it.
And however cool fly fishing can look, I mean, we're straight behind surfing.
Yeah, I don't have the long surfer hair now. Tom, you have.
Tom's a frustrated surfer.
Yeah. So I take it out of my fly rod.
He watched Point Break when he was 20, and it's. But actually, we might as well just mention the youth event while we'll put the notes into it in the episode notes. But just quickly, since we're on youths, it's great to see East Mayo Anglers do something.
So East Mayo, they have a youth event on August the 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the disabled facility just above Foxford and Straight. You'll see all the details on their website or on Facebook. I think they might have a post, and it's basic. I think you might have to book in advance just so they know what numbers are coming. But I hope to be there, and it's a great opportunity for anyone who wants to learn how to fish, or like you'll be taught all methods, not only just the fly, but I hope to be there. I might be doing fly tying or something like that, and it's definitely worth going.
Brilliant. We'll put the information in the show notes as well. And I suppose, look, if you've got a son or a daughter who, you think might be into it as well, that's a good chance to kind of introduce. You mightn't have any interest or know anything about it. It doesn't matter. Bring the kids along,
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Great idea. And it's great to see something like that been run.
If only there was more of them, because as I said, like sometimes it mightn't be the right time for someone. I think the cool camps are over now, but some like one event in the year might, like families might be on holidays, or so if there was more of them throughout the year with even clubs across the country, like it definitely might get a better turnout.
Yeah. So come here, tell us, like I said earlier, you're catching well, despite the struggles this year. I think people are very envious in terms of your catch rate. Have you any advice, tips, hints for people in terms of, I suppose even just the consistency of your catching?
Well, actually, I considered, like I have had a good season considering the numbers of fish. Like I've had, I'd say, like it's not many at all in comparison to other seasons, but I'd say I've 13 or 14 fish now. But like I'm chuffed with that considering the season. Like I've only said I've been out. I'd say I've been out really just as many times. Like the conditions have been dreadful this season. Like dry June, like there was literally in the deal here beside me, there was no water in the river, like there was literally just stones, and it went from that extreme to absolute crazy rain, and that's not great for fishing, because I do a lot of my fishing on the Owen Moor, but I suppose and the Moy too as well. But just meant that the grills came all of a sudden and way too fast. Like, a lot of them just shot up above the club water where I fish in the more. And as for the Moy, yeah, it's the same as the one more. There's not as many grills there either. But yeah, I primarily do most of my spring fishing on the East Mayo. But the one more for me is summer fishing.
And how often would you be out during the summer, say, Cian?
April and May, I'd say I fished more than all summer. Like,
Right.
that's probably because I was mad chasing springers, and it was the first year kind of being able to do it. Like, no, put me behind a bit in my college work, but I was kind of happy to do it for a while. I got 2 fish in May, at the beginning of May, and the last fish I hooked was a huge double-figure fish, and I actually lost him. And I was just like, this is it. This is the start of the season. I think it was like the 7th of May, and hooked him up at Howley's in East Mayo. And I was like, this is it. The spring run is on the way, and the grills won't be long after, like, but it just didn't materialize after that. So didn't mind it at the time. But after that, looking back, I was just like, gosh, I wish I'd landed that fish.
The pain arrived later.
But no, I'd say maybe 15 times this season I've been out.
Right.
It hasn't, like, I try to get out maybe once or twice a week, depending on conditions. It's hard fishing. Like, it's if I do go out, I like to go out for a whole day, because you really do, this year in particular, you really do have to sort of graph for the fish. Like, it's not like
stick at it. Yeah.
Like,
Don't expect one in a couple of hours.
I used to go out after work for an hour or two and catch a few fish and go home. But yeah, you'd be lucky if you done that this year. Like, it's really just, I pick 1 or 2 good days in the week when the conditions are right, and I fish it for hours on end. And I like, a fish is a good day, one fish, and that's, in comparison to other seasons, is yeah.
And come here, Cian, what do you do then back end coming up now? Like, I hate to say this, but like, there are actually only 7 weeks or
Yeah, I
7
know,
weeks
it's
left in the
crazy,
season.
like,
I know, it's crazy stuff. Like, right, there's what's left of August and September. Do you do much back end fishing? And if you do, where do you go?
I would have never done really much in the season fishing now, but those I, not that it's particularly great for the end of the season. Like, I still do fish the more, just because it's so, like, it's the more is 20 minutes away from me, and the Moy is about half an hour. So the more is just on my doorstep. So it's just about sort of getting out more than the quality of the fishing. But yeah.
And any tips, Cian, for people like just listen to you there? It's obviously, if you can, give the day, you know what I mean? So put in the hours in terms of that. And then I suppose idea is, if you're in a situation where, the conditions are going to be good and you can take a day, is that the kind of, it's being able to maximize that? Like,
I like to simplify fly fishing, and particularly for salmon. I think, like, when I started out fly fishing, I was just, I spent so much money too as well. Money that I probably couldn't afford when I was younger, on fly lines, endless YouTube videos, just because obviously, like my family wouldn't be into fishing, so I just had myself endless YouTube videos, and spent a load of money on just fly lines that were useless. Like, and there's always that case too as well. Sometimes you go into the tackle shop and you come out with something you end up like not wanting.
As somebody who works in the tackle trade,
yeah,
Cian, I don't think that's a particularly bad thing.
yeah. Well, I suppose I do always dig out something that I may have bought sort of 5 years ago.
Thanks, because I was just about to say that, because you'll have it if you keep it. You never know when it's gonna. You never know when it's going to come in handy again.
Like, I really just like to simplify it. I do mostly double hand fishing, so I like to keep a relatively short rod, like sort of 12, 13 foot. The Oracle Scandi ranges are very cheap for anyone getting into fishing.
And they're really good, and they're really good rods too, aren't they?
Yeah,
For the price.
Yeah. Now my Oracle Scandi retired. It got sat on in the car by a passenger. I forgot to like break it up after fishing. But it was only it got a good few fish, so it retired deservingly so. I don't have it anymore, but I loved it. So yeah, the Oracle Scandis, keep the salmon lines as short as possible. We live in Ireland, like, so rivers aren't huge. We're not fishing in Norway. I like a line, a shooting head line between sort of 30 and 33 feet. Some people have pouches of sink tips in like so many different like lengths, and I primarily only use 3 sink tips. I use an intermediate, a slow sink, and a fast sink. I think you're just overcomplicating it, particularly in the summertime, when you're trying to like get every sort of level, and keep the leader length short.
How long, actually? What length? What's your average leader length?
The last day I was fishing, it was yesterday, I was chopping and changing flies so much, which I usually don't do. My leader was like 2 foot by the end of it. So, it doesn't really make salmon aren't leader shy. So I wouldn't really use strong, because particularly on the O'More, there's big fish there, so you don't want fishing 10-pound tippet. And
so what do you use? What tippet strength do you use on the O'More?
I use sort of between 15 and 20 pounds, and when it gets really low, maybe 13, but that's fluorocarbon now, so obviously that can be with the Rio brand, they're a lot thicker than the diameter is a lot thinner than maximum.
And it's very interesting because that happened to us once when we were, and this happens to trout fishermen, because if they go salmon fishing, they up, and they think they're upping a lot to 10 pounds.
Yeah.
But it's not enough. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And even just like you're fishing a really fine tippet, out here in Mayo particularly, like the wind will it'll wreck your head. So I find a thicker diameter, stronger tippet will produce sort of wind knots, and you'll be able to turn over tubes too as well, small little tubes, a lot easier. So, I know some people fish 2 flies. I don't. I always fish 1 fly. I like to think that if I hook a fish for a lifetime, then I don't have to worry about though there's the second fly. I only fish 2 flies when I'm fishing the bubbling fly. But now with the fly rod, of course, I might fish 2 flies depending on the pool. If I just get a feeling about it, I might fish 2 flies. I might put like a small beaded fly on the dropper, and just a regular double or treble on the point. Because obviously, like some people put the weighted fly on the point, but I prefer it on the dropper, because if you catch a fish, you don't have to worry about if you catch a fish in the dropper, you don't have to worry about the tube getting caught.
No, that's good advice.
Great advice, actually.
Like I said, keep it simple. It can be a bit bewildering between the scatchets, the scandies, poly leaders, poly tips, all that.
For anyone that's listening, there's the Airflow Rage line. It's a great line, particularly. I don't want to go into grains, confuse people and all that, but I'll just say it anyways. Go about 30 or 40 grains above the line recommendation on your rod, because it's a very short line. won't get into the scientifics of it. But it just loads the rod nicely for someone that's a beginner. And it's great for windy conditions. Or there's another line I had is Gale Force do great lines. I think it's the switch, the Gale Force switch. So get whatever size depending on your rod. That's a very short line too as well, and it comes with the running line too as well, which the Rage doesn't. You have to buy running line separately. It's integrated. They're two short lines that are just great for rivers in Ireland.
And actually, just speaking of rivers, have you travelled much around Ireland or abroad?
No, I actually because I'm driving the last 5 years now. I've really I've only fished the Moy and no more, and the Deal rivers that are sort of I would have fished anyways growing up. So no, I like the season. It always seems so long at the start, but and you have people asking you to go up north to the Mourne and the Finn and that. But I'm always like next season, but you never know.
You're too busy catching on your own local rivers, like.
It's I mean I love the rivers we have here, so I'm not complaining one bit at all. Like, what people come from all over the world to fish here. So
exactly.
Nothing
We
wrong
do
with
actually. And come here, do you have any let's say bucket list? Because we're always on about bucket list. Any place internationally, overseas you'd like to go to?
Iceland for sure. Like, we have a lot of peaty rivers here, which in its own, I like that because I like sort of the unknown of not knowing whether there's 20-pound fish in the pool or 5-pound fish or no fish at all. I like the sort of mystique and sort of peaty water. But I suppose in terms of Iceland, it would be a great learning experience because you get to understand fish behavior a lot more in the clear water. You get to see them sort of, separating as your fly is going down the pool, ignoring it and different reactions to that. So 100% Iceland, that's on my bucket, particularly for trout too as well. So I'd say there's no better place to get me into a bit of a trout fishing. I don't do it enough here. And I've lock on right in my shore and I don't do a bit of it.
Cian, as I'm sure you probably know, our last question to every guest is for their most memorable fish on the fly. So I'm guessing it's going to be a salmon from either the Owenmore or the Moy.
Yeah, I have two. I have two because obviously my first salmon was my most memorable. I caught that at the back of the town in Foxford on the Moy. I'd say I was 11. And my granddad was beside me. He just happened to walk down at the time. He was beside me and I caught the fish. It was fresh fish, about 5 pounds, bubble and fly, orange and gold shrimp. And yeah, it was just because I had spent years. I think that season I fished every day. My grandparents, they lived beside the river there. So it was literally a roll out of the bed down at the river. And fished every day that season and got that fish. I think it was sort of the end of July. And yeah, I was delighted with that. And the second fish is on the Owenmore. I got that recently. It was 21 pounds. And I was just it was a very subtle take, but I ended up being 40 minutes in them. I know there's the pound to minute ratio when it comes to fish, but for a big fish like that, they're the boss. Like it's particularly that fish. It was well rested, and I got him in low water too as well. So the river wasn't too big at that point, but it was very narrow, and sometimes it can be very hard play a fish when he doesn't have like much area to run. It's easy to play a fish in the Moy sometimes, because particularly on the ridge, because they'll just rip up and down the river. They have that space. But in a big fish on light tackle, it's just a different story. But 40 minutes playing them, and I just couldn't believe it when Well, it's actually my net was too big or too small. Yeah, I literally had my net. I put it on the bank as I was paying the fish, and yeah, I was sort of wondering sort of how the fish was going to fit in it. I ended up trying to sort of get him in the net because I was only going to damage the fish too as well because he was so big, like it was just under the meter. So tried to beach him the first time. I made the silly decision of running over to grab his tail, but the fish was facing me and my legs were wide open. So the fish, I'm pretty good at tailing fish, like, but I don't know, was it nerves or heat of the moment or whatever? Just touched him and he shot through my legs. I was just like, if I lose this fish, I deserve it 100%. And didn't lose him. I had to jump over my rods, jump over my line, and reel in the slack line. And 10 minutes later, I got him the second time, just about. Yeah, just under the meter, 21 pounds, well-rested fish. I'd say he was in it since April anyways. But yeah, it was like something prehistoric when I seen it. Like, it was crazy. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Well deserved, though. Well deserved.
Fantastic.
One thing I regret is not getting scale samples, because it would have been interesting to know sort of what age and just the profile of the fish. But I was so excited and I wanted to get the fish back as soon as possible that I didn't. But yeah.
Was that the biggest of the season, or was that one of the...
I'm not sure, actually. It could well have been. Like, I don't think there is fish that size run the river. But I don't think, I haven't seen a fish that, I've seen 2 or 3 18-pounders on the O'Moore in the last 4 years, but haven't seen anything over that now. But yeah, they're there. Not so much on the mine now, but you never know.
Well, I tell you, Cian, if anybody's going to go to get them, I think I'll be seeing it on your Instagram feed.
Yeah, well, yeah. Do you know what? Actually, Johnny and Yamo were in Norway at the time, and we have a group chat up, and they were blanking every single day. And I sent a message, a voice note to the group, out of breath. Oh, lads, I've just been playing this fish for the last 40 minutes, and sent a picture, and they were there. It was gas, like, just like you think you have to go abroad for some fish that's incredible, like, but really, like, we're blessed with the rivers here, like, we don't realize it, like.
Well, Cian, I tell you, you might only be 23, but Jesus, we've a lot to learn from you. I tell you, for a lot of people listening, like, so.
I think regardless of what you know in fishing, like, there's something, like, I do like fishing with other people, because no matter how much you know, you'll always learn something new from someone else, like, so yeah.
Brilliant. Well, listen, tight lines for what's left of the season. I think we should check in with you regularly, because I keep tabs on how you're doing, because, like I said, there's a lot to be learned from you and your experience thus far. And just a reminder as well to people, just we put in the show notes just for the youth event for the East Mayo Anglers Association. We were checking out as well if you've any young kids just interested in getting involved, and be a great event. But best of luck for the rest of the season, Cian, and thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks so much, guys.
Our thanks to Cian O'Boyle for joining us on the show. Don't forget to rate, review and follow the Ireland on the Fly podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Plus, you can keep up to date on IrelandOnTheFly.com, as well as on Instagram, and myself and Tom will be back with another episode about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland.